we are going to start in the AFC East. We're doing all 32 teams today. We're going to go division by division. We're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. Now, this grade that we came up with for every team is basically an average between my grade and Dobbs' grade. I think that's the most fair way to do it. So me and Dobbs had the Bills at a B+. Personally, I really like the Keon Coleman pick. I like that they traded back to be able to get him. Now, if he didn't go to the Bills, I'm very interested to see where other teams had him on their board, because I feel like he was a polarizing guy in the draft where it's like people either liked him or they hated him. I don't even know if hate, just not like as much as like a first pick in the second round.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he was going to fall more towards like 40, 45 range. But I'm also not surprised that there was bound to be a few teams that were going to value that skill set that he has very highly. When you pair it with the quarterback like a Josh Allen, where you can mitigate the separation issues with the fact that Josh is always going to put it where it needs to be and high point that thing, he's just going to be able to go up and get it. I think realistically, the Bills was a top 3 situation for Keon Coleman. I think he's going to love it there. I think they're going to love him. And like we were saying before we started recording, it's already someone who's played in cold weather back when he was at Michigan. So it's not like it's going to be like a complete shock when you're taking somebody who, from the SEC that's never gotten that shock in the cold weather. Like, you're getting someone who's going to be able to come and play in that weather.
Right. And then obviously they addressed the safety need with Cole Bishop in the second round. What do you think Cole can bring to the Bills?
I think this is going to be their Jordan, the Jordan Poyer replacement. I think they're going to use him in a very similar way. Again, I don't know if he's ever going to hit that same level and ceiling that Jordan Poyer did, but you're filling an immediate need that you desperately did need to fill. So you have to be happy about that if you're a Bills fan, because the reality is safety, the longer you wait, I feel like the more volatile it can get. So, you're taking a shot on one of the guys that you felt good about early, and it's just a good use of the pick.
I like the pick of Dwayne Carter. He is 6'2", 300 pounds, defensive tackle from Duke. I think they needed to shore up the interior of that defensive line a little bit. And then I also like the pick of Cedric Van Pran in the 5th round. I don't think it's good value, because I think he could have went as early as the 4th, maybe even a late 3rd if teams loved him, but they needed that center addition. They lost Mitch Morris. They lost Ryan Bates, who's kind of been a swing interior offensive lineman. They needed kind of a succession plan. They may have someone right now, but getting him in the draft, I think, addressed the need, and they got him at an appropriate time. So I think it was a great pick by the Bills.
No, absolutely. And you got to feel good taking someone off that Dogs O-line, just mauling stuff last year. Like to what you were saying, I think Van Pran fell a little bit farther than I expected. You got great value on this if you're a Bills fan.
And finally, obviously, guys, we're not going to go through every single pick, but I did like the Ray Davis pick out of Kentucky. I think he adds like a good bit of dynamic. I'm trying to think of the right word. There's no
he just adds that power that they kind of are lacking.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, like, if any Bills fans are unaware with his story, I would definitely recommend looking into Ray Davis's story. I think if you're not happy with the pick now, you'll be a lot happier knowing how hungry this kid is and how much he has to prove.
All right. Any last thoughts on the Bills, or ready to move to the Dolphins?
I would say last thoughts too. Edafon Olufashiu, I might be pronouncing that a little bit wrong. I'm still working on a few of these names. But the linebacker you guys took in the 5th round out of Washington, I think you guys got great value on him too. I remember we were watching the combine. He was moving around really well. The tape already was really solid. You might have gotten yourself a real steal there in the 5th round.
Moving to the Miami Dolphins, we had them at an A-. Dobbs, what are your initial thoughts on the Dolphins?
I think we're thinking the same thing. If we're looking at the Dolphins draft, obviously there's one thing and one thing only at this point you can say that the Dolphins very much value from a scouting process, and they value athleticism over anything else. And not that everyone that they drafted didn't put out good tape. I really do love most of the guys that they took. But there's one thing you can conclude is that they do value athleticism over all else. And it's interesting because it's worked out so far for them. I mean, they're going the right direction. I think if we were going to talk about a pick that surprised me more than anything else, I do think Patrick Paul went definitely a bit earlier than I expected him to go. But at the same time, I get it because, like we were saying, he's an incredibly athletic guy, and it makes sense the Dolphins were going to be the team to take him.
So I'm going to mess this up, but I believe Patrick Paul's his grandfather was like the president of Nigeria or something like that, and he was saying he wants to go back to be president one day. And then his brother, I believe, played for the Commanders, Chris Paul. I'm trying to exactly remember. Either he has like the biggest hand size or the smallest hand size, I think, recorded for a tackle. Or one
I'll
of
be able
the
to tell you right now.
I think
If you get, it might be the smallest because his hand. Yeah, I'll say it might be because he has 9 3/8 inch hands.
okay, yeah, it's definitely small. So, I also really like the addition of Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright and Devon Achane is such a good running back duo, even if they're not going to be using like, why it's not Elijah Mitchell. Mostert, that's who it is. I was thinking 49ers running backs. And then, I really do like adding Malik Washington and Taj Washington, 2 Washingtons at the receiver. I think Malik can be a very good player for them in their offense.
No, 100%. And another guy that we didn't touch on yet, but I think, look, you add also Muhammad Kamara along with obviously Chop Robinson, 2 guys that are still definitely very much on the raw side of things, but the upside is incredibly high. And if the future duo is Muhammad Kamara and Chop Robinson off the edge, if they both can hit their ceiling, you're going to have an amazing pass rush duo in a couple of years.
No, I agree.
Loading behind Bradley and Co.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing the Dolphins want on both sides of the ball is speed. I mean, that's very apparent with everybody they've taken today.
No, they're really trying to revolutionize both sides of the ball. And I'm not even saying that as a joke. It's actually kind of crazy.
Any final thoughts on the Dolphins before we move to the Patriots?
Final thoughts, just speed, and you got to respect it.
New England Patriots, we have a B, and I think the B is really carried, in my opinion, by the Drake May and Javon Baker pick. I think they got Baker in the 4th round is a steal. I think Baker could have went as early as like a late second. I think he's that talented. I think he's probably the sleeper wide receiver in the draft, like the mid-round guys.
1,000%. I can't believe he fell this far.
Can't believe it. Another guy I can't believe fell this far, and we'll talk about later, is Troy Franklin. That was kind of insane, and I think pairing him with, like I said, we'll talk about that later. But
that was insane.
I think their 2nd, 3rd, and a 1st, 4th round pick, Polk, Wallace, and Robinson were all reaches. I think they were all reach. I always thought there was better prospects on the board.
No, I'll agree. Here's what I will say, though, and it does make a lot more sense when you look at it like this, because this is just the facts at this point. But here's the thing: is I'm not going to be able to tell you what they're doing. I can just tell you that it's true, if this makes sense. For whatever reason, the way the Patriots draft O-linemen is just vastly different from every other team. Like, if we go and look at their track record over the last 2 drafts, they have what they value in O-linemen is just very significantly different than the rest of the league. And that's what's funny is I can't tell you what it is because they're not necessarily more athletic guys. And they're not, they're very like midline testers. But I'll say, if you had to ask me who I think has the highest upside of the O-lineman they took, I think Caden Wallace has a chance to be a productive starter for them for a long time. But I don't know. Yeah, like what you're saying, it's very true. The way they draft linemen is just very interesting. And I think, too, like a thing I definitely really didn't like about the Patriots draft, and I think it's funny because a lot of Patriots fans that I've talked to and I've heard from, they disagree. They actually love it. But I think if you're taking Drake May, and you already have so many holes to fill, I don't know why you're drafting Joe Milton with your 6th round pick. Like, I get you're also banking on potential upside there too. But it's like, if Drake May is going to be your guy, what are you taking a backup for when you have literally so many needs? And there was still good players on the board. Like, there's just a few things about this draft class I wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, here is I know it's kind of like a weird reason to take a guy. Joe Milton obviously has a cannon, right? I wonder if they're looking at him as like a practice squad guy who they just want to see if they can put a guy with a lot of arm talent in there, put their defense up against like some deep threats, all that stuff. And it's kind of a weird reason to take a guy in the 6th. And I don't know if that's like the only thing I can think of, though. I know he's like a project, but like, do you like as the Patriots, like, I mean, I guess you want to take as many swings as you can. I don't know. I don't mind the pick. I would love to know the reasoning behind it and how they had him on this board. But I do love the Jaheim Bell pick. The fact that he fell to the seventh to me is kind of crazy. I think on the right team, he can be a very productive tight end.
No, I was just about to say to finish off the class. I do agree completely. You took the words out of my mouth. I think they got fantastic value on Jaheim, and also like again, what I will say too before we finish off the Patriots is I'm one of the very few. I actually like Jalen Polt going where he did. I think it doesn't. It's not like you love it on paper, but I think he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player, and he was already a very productive college player. I think his attitude and everything about the way he plays is going to translate very well. So I don't mind it as much as a lot of other people. I do agree, maybe a bit of a reach, but I do think for the Patriots and the way that they run the organization, I think he's going to fit in very well.
He's going to be a really reliable target for Drake May.
No, he definitely is.
New York Jets, we had an A minus. So I really do like the Olu pick because I really thought they were going to be an organization that was thinking for the now. And Olu is definitely a future pick because I don't think he's going to start over Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses, but he's going to be there if, Tyron Smith gets injured. Malachi Corley, I think is a interesting selection to me. He definitely is different than what they already have. So I understand it. He is a very talented player and definitely adds some versatility. I think their running back room is a little bit crowded already. So I was kind of interested to see them take Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen. I don't know if
that's exactly,
yeah.
That's kind of what made me like not give them all the way in, the best range possible for the draft class. I love everything minus the running backs. And it's not that I like both of these running backs, but to the Jets, I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me because of the fact that they already have Breece Hall, Israel Abakanda. I know they moved on from who was their second? He was a second round or third round pick. He's on the
Carter.
Cards. Yeah, Michael Carter. Yeah, but I mean, I thought the running back room was yeah. I mean, the whole Jets offense last year was putrid, but I don't think the running back room was the worst part of it.
No, absolutely not.
I do actually really like the Jordan Travis pick. I think this was like a sneaky, very good spot for him.
No, especially going to learn behind A-Rod. You have to love that if you're a Jets fan. And I was going to say, too, Quantez Stiggers, the CFL Rookie of the Year, you got to feel good about adding him to an already elite DB room.
Oh, yeah, for a fifth-round pick? Awesome.
And then Jalen Key, you're getting yourself a potential special team stud. I don't know how much actual safety he's going to play, but he's an initial special teams pick. I think he can be a stud on that unit, though.
So overall, I guess, and this will be a theme as we get into the rest of the division stops, most of the teams had a good draft this year. Like, I really did like a lot of the teams' drafts this year.
No, it was vastly different from last year because I remember, bro, I was giving out a lot of B minuses, C pluses last year. It is definitely vastly different this year.